NBC News is reporting that as soon as this afternoon, President Biden is planning to address the American people about the unidentified objects that the U.S. military recently shot down. In an exclusive interview, NBC's Pentagon correspondent Courtney Kube spoke to Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin in Brussels at the NATO meetings yesterday about these aerial objects.
The fact that the U.S. military didn't know about these until recently, is that an intelligence failure? Was that a military failure?
No, it's how you use your radars. We typically are focused on things that are moving fast, and so it's a bit more difficult to collect on slow-moving objects like a balloon. And as they made adjustments, we were able to see some of that.
And joining me now is Pentagon correspondent, my colleague Courtney Kube. Courtney, let's talk about the aerial objects and what the Pentagon knows. What more do they know, especially about these three others that were clearly not spy balloons, not attributed to any state actors, and were probably balloons, not objects.
Right. And the reality is the U.S. is still not saying much more about them, the U.S. government. They do believe, they're leaning towards this theory that they were benign, that they didn't present any kind of a threat. In fact, Secretary Austin said that they presented no military threat to people on the ground. The concern was that they may have presented a threat from the air to commercial aviation. But the reality is, I asked Secretary Austin if, given the fact the U.S. shot down these three, not knowing what they were, and now they believe they weren't necessarily a threat, does that mean we'll see more shoot downs like this? And he said, first, they need to figure out exactly what these first three were. So we still don't have a whole lot of answers.
We're expecting, perhaps, when we hear from the president today, to get the policy going forward. You know, were they too trigger happy? Were they responding to politics? He obviously won't address that because there was so much criticism on the Hill. But what will be the protocol going forward? Because, as you know, as you've been reporting, they've now widened the aperture of their radar, where they're seeing a lot more stuff out there. It's not that that stuff hasn't always been out there or more recently, but China does have a very aggressive program, and that is clearly of concern.
Right.
What did the Secretary have to say about China? Because China is saying this was accidental, but the U.S. is saying it was maneuverable.
Right.
They actually steered it from Canada down into Idaho and Montana and then across the country.
And it could have been both. There may have been a moment where it went out of control and they couldn't control it, but it was a maneuverable, enormous object. So the belief is that most likely there was some intent here to use this to surveil the U.S. Whether it was actually intended to go over sensitive sites in the U.S. is still unclear. We've been trying to get to the bottom of that. But you bring up a good point about the policy here. The U.S. and China, there's no doubt about the fact that tensions are pretty high between these two countries right now. One of the things that I spoke to Secretary Austin about is the fact that this military-to-military hotline that has existed for years now is no longer in existence. The Chinese are simply not answering. Secretary Austin trying to call his Chinese counterpart before they shot down the first balloon, and he simply didn't answer. Secretary Austin saying that is dangerous. Here's what he had to say.
In this case, and in the case we had a couple of months ago, when something happens, they somehow tend to shut down their military channels of communication. I think that's dangerous. But it won't stop me from continuing to encourage them to open up the lines of communication. I think that's the right thing to do.
Well, Courtney, as Secretary Austin was just saying to you, you know, we have to figure out what is happening, get these lines of communication open. They've been low-level diplomatic communications, but the important thing is that very shortly, Secretary Blinken is going to be flying here tonight, overnight, arriving here. Wang Yi is also coming from Beijing. He's the top diplomat from China. Are they going to get together? Are they going to try to reset relations after Blinken, of course, a couple of weeks ago, canceled his trip because of the spy balloon?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's the potential for some sort of a sideline kind of meeting, not necessarily an official or formal meeting, but something where the two men could discuss. We don't know if that's going to happen yet, but it is really important that these the diplomatic lines are still open at a low level. The mill-to-mill lines are extremely important because they serve as a deconfliction mechanism. So if there is the potential for some sort of a miscalculation or miscommunication without that immediate mill-to-mill hotline, it only makes it more and more potentially dangerous when something is breaking.
And even during the Cold War, when we were covering the Cold War, there were communications at the worst moments on the hotline.
Even think about over Syria right now. The U.S. talks to Russia in a deconfliction line so that they can make sure that their aircraft aren't in the same area. There's no kind of mistake or miscommunication. So I wouldn't be surprised if the two men get together if that's something that they discuss.
Courtney Kubi, thanks so much. You're all over it. And of course, it was Courtney who first broke the story, and we expect to hear from President Biden as soon as today about the Chinese spy balloon. The latest from our White House team next. On the special edition of Andrea Mitchell Reports, we're live in Munich at the security conference as it's beginning to open right here in Germany.